a vineyard owner and a public official. This guy has been there for a while. I love Napa, and I've been there recently, and it's always amazing to see the well-established vineyards out there. But he's been growing grapes in Napa Valley for over 40 years, and he's also growing something else now, too. So I wanted to welcome you to the show. Erik, how are you doing today?
Great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, gosh, what an interesting sort of journey that you have gone on. I want to share it with our audience. First of all, though, I wanted to point out the word entrepreneur. I don't know if you heard the intro to the show, but a lot of the underlying theme of our show is about entrepreneurism. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial background and sort of what got you in Napa Valley in the first place.
Yeah, well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started out in my 20s working, creating a business in Washington, D.C. called Burrito Brothers, a Mexican carryout chain that brought California burritos to the East Coast in the 80s where they hadn't been before. But my family's been growing grapes in Napa since I was a teen. Drove the tractor, set up the smudge pots in the winter, that kind of thing. And my wife and I decided to move back to Napa after I sold Burrito Brothers. And a few years later, I founded a winery called Alpha Omega on Highway 29 in Rutherford. And it was quite successful and sold out of that about 4 years ago. So I've been doing entrepreneurship, and I highly recommend it to your viewers. It's not for the faint of heart. It definitely means you got risk in your life, but it's a great and rewarding way to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny because a lot of us, I have some really dear friends that have great careers. They're great folks, and I mean they were, I think about us as students. Like I was a student that was sort of hard to sit in my chair and do my homework on time, and I guess you'd call me a creative, probably like you. And other friends are very studious and really stick to the program. They're the ones that have these really good careers, and they look at me and people like you and me and think of us as just total daredevils because they couldn't handle the stress and the risk factor or something. But it's interesting to see the different personality types. I'm sure you've run into that in your life.
Absolutely. And, one thing I do say, though, and you know this too, Mike, is that, the big risk is taking that first step. Once you dive off the diving board, you're in the pool, and you just gotta survive. So
exactly.
You go at it and do what you got to do.
Exactly. Well, I want to touch on. We're going to get to the main topic here, but we got a little bit of time, so I just want to sort of ease into this. But Alpha Omega, for those who don't know, is a really well-known winery in Napa. But gosh, how did you get going on that? I'd love to hear since you started it. What's the inspiration for the name?
Yeah, so we hired a great young winemaker named John Hofflinger from France and Switzerland as our winemaker. So we brought an old world winemaker to the new world to make wine. So we thought the beginning and the end, old and new, was a great name. I also, a lot of entrepreneurs know that if you can start your business with an A, it's a good thing because you're at the top of the list in front of the phone book in the old days. And now for wineries, it means you're one of the first tasting tables at a big tasting.
That's right. Yeah. And so the guy that owns ZD is in trouble, right?
Exactly. Now he's got such a great track record and such a history that maybe he makes up for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so let's go into, your winemaking background. I mean, you went from making burritos to making a stellar world-class wine. You said earlier that your family grew grapes. Did they also have a winery, or were you guys just bulk grape sellers, or how did that go?
Yeah, no, we were just farmers. We raised grapes first, Sauvignon Blanc in the late 70s. We then switched to Cabernet and Merlot. And we were selling to wineries like Raymond and Newton.
Okay.
Peter Newton was my mentor and taught me everything I know about the wine business before I started my winery.
Nice. Well, so let's get on to where we are now. There's been over the course of the years for all of us that have lived in California, we've been seeing this sort of evolution towards the legalization of marijuana, and people have been wondering, is this going to be good? Is this not going to be good? A lot of it has been driven down the road of, the medical marijuana side versus the recreational marijuana side. But, I wanted to get into sort of what brought you into and what's your background in sort of the cannabis industry as it stands today.
Well, so it's bifurcated. In my teens and 20s in San Francisco and going to school at Berkeley, I was a consumer and watched the kind of change from this kind of brown, crumbly, seed-ridden marijuana that came in from Colombia and Mexico to the advent of California Sensimilla. And it really changed the quality and the experience with cannabis. And over the last 40 years, it's really developed incredibly across the state, but particularly up in the North Coast. And so it was something that I was always kind of aware of and followed. And then after I sold my winery, I was having dinner one night with a younger friend, a guy who's in his 30s, and he asked what I thought about the cannabis business. And I said, listen, as soon as it's legal, I'd really like to explore going to that business, because how often do you get to start in an industry on its, first floor, right? I guess the last time was when Prohibition ended for alcohol. It's rare that you can go into an industry and actually create the industry in addition to creating your business. And that really excited me.
Wow. That is interesting. So now a lot of folks are kind of confused here. This isn't, and I've talked to some wineries about, putting, just say some bud in wine. In fact, we had a really serious discussion about, how you see those olive oil jar, bottles, and they have like some rosemary inside of it or something like that. So we were thinking, wouldn't it be cool to put a giant bud in there? And one of the guys was talking about, well, you couldn't do it if it didn't have the THC taken out. And we got into this long discussion, but we're not really talking here, or are we, about weed and wine. It's more like you're in the wine industry, but the two are sort of like similar in a sense that they have the similar harvest season as an example, and they grow in the same climates.
Yeah, there's kind of what was the expression when kids, really little kids have parallel play, where they're sitting next to each other, not actually interacting, but playing at the same time. That's kind of what the wine and the weed world have to do right now. Mm-hmm. The state, when we passed our laws for cannabis, legalizing it last year, or 2 years ago rather, the law says that you can't retail cannabis and alcohol at the same place, which means they can't be in the same formulation. That may change over time, and it may not be the same in other states that other states legalize, but that's the rule here. So for now, alcohol and cannabis have to be kept separate. Okay.
And then in what way do you think that, being in the wine business, starting a winery, in what ways we're going to take a break here in a minute and then get back to more of this in the second half. But in what are some of the ways that the businesses that you had before, the winery industry as an example, or being in the hospitality industry more or less with the restaurant, what are some of the things that you took away from that sort of maybe helps you in your background here with the new business you're doing?
Well, all three businesses involve agricultural product. We were buying a lot of avocados and tomatoes at Burrito Brothers and growing grapes and buying a lot of grapes at Alpha Omega, and the same thing here. So there's that agricultural component at its base, which I really like, because I think it keeps the business really grounded and real. And then you take that agricultural product and you have to transform it into a consumer product, which is really about creating brands, right? I mean, you want to be the best and most popular burrito place in DC. You want to be a winery that really stands out on Highway 29, because there are a lot of wineries. So it's about offering customers both a product and a packaging. And in the case of both the restaurant business and the wine business, and I think eventually the cannabis business, hospitality plays a big role. Tasting rooms are really, in the wine business, are really how you get a customer in the first place and really win them over so that they go home and they want to buy your wine at their favorite restaurant or at their favorite wine store. We hope to do exactly the same thing with cannabis. Create brands that are really connect with customers with a direct experience. We'd love eventually to have tasting rooms at our farms. Just like in the wine business, we think it's a great approach to teaching people about a product, especially a product that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with yet, like cannabis. Yeah, exactly. Well, so you're seeing this sort of a play on not just being sort of a early adopter in a new venture or a new area of business that's going to be obviously growing as California goes forward and in the U.S. goes forward, but also tapping into another part of the industry, which is the tourism, sort of the ecotourism, sort of, or agritourism, as they like to call it. Yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. We're operating in Lake County is where we're growing cannabis right now, because we can't grow in Napa yet. We hope we will in the next year or two. But we're really operating in terms of sales in Napa and Sonoma counties. So we want to be there for those folks who are living in those counties who don't have access, because these rural counties don't have dispensaries often. A lot of smaller cities don't. So we can provide cannabis by delivery to Napa and Sonoma. But we're also expecting that the 4 to 5 million wine tourists to come up every year will add this to the kind of the repertoire of what they do in Napa. They certainly drink wine. They go to great restaurants. There's a health component, spas, things like that. And we'd like cannabis to be just another layer in that wonderful hospitality experience that Napa and Sonoma offer visitors. Well, it sounds great. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. We're speaking with Erik Sklar right now. He is the owner and the new founder of Fume, which used to be part of the wine industry. And I'm Mike Rayford. You're listening to In Search of the Good Life. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody. Mike Rayford here. You're listening to In Search of the Good Life. We're here every weekend.
And you can check us out online at MikeTheWineGuy.com. That's where you can check out all the former guests that we have their archive shows up there in a nice archive, and they're on podcasts. It's available on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, all the whole 9 yards. Just Google Mike the Wine Guy or in search of the Good Life Show, and you'll have it. So on with us now. We're continuing with Erik Sklar, and he's from. How do you say this, Erik? I know Fumé is the name of the wine, but what do you guys call it?
That's exactly what we call it, and it's a tribute to Robert Mondavi and Fumé Blanc. He was such a mentor for all of us and a leader for the Napa and Sonoma wine industries that we wanted to honor his use of the word Fumé, but it works perfectly since it means smoke.
Exactly. No, he really was. I mean, he really sort of put I know there's a lot of other people that helped along the way. He wasn't the only guy, but I mean, he really stuck the stake in the ground over there and really made Napa, put Napa on the map. Well, listen, tell us a little bit about what Fumé is, because I know that there's this actual for people that are kind of new to this, what do we need to know, and what are some of the things that you guys do?
Well, so we're a vertically integrated cannabis company. We have gardens where we're growing cannabis. We'll be launching some brands, 2 different brands in the spring. But most importantly right now is we're providing direct access to cannabis products, a whole range of different products from flower to pre-rolls and edibles and tinctures and so on, vaporizers, to all of Napa and Sonoma counties. We partner with a company called Ease. Ease is a technology company that provides a way for consumers to connect with the dispensary, like ours, to get the cannabis delivered right to their front door. So we now deliver all over both unincorporated Napa and Sonoma counties, as well as Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Healdsburg, City of Sonoma, and then in Napa, the City of Napa, St. Helena, and Calistoga. There are a few small cities that we can't deliver to yet, but we will shortly. But what it means is you can get online, sign up for the service with Ease, put your driver's license in, upload a credit card number, and then you go on to the app and place the order, and your cannabis will get delivered to your door sometime in the next hour or so.
That's just amazing. I'm sitting here, sort of I'm from the 70s, right? I mean, from back in the day, the Berkeley Bay Area, the whole 9 yards. I mean, this is probably something that people dreamed about or fantasized about, and it was just never going to happen. You can literally now just go online, whip out your smartphone, and order up some bud, and they bring it to your house.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing. The first time people experience it, they're like really blown away. It's a great service, and delivery right now isn't for a lot of places is the only way you can get cannabis. There's not a licensed dispensary in all of Napa County. I think there will be a couple in the city of Napa soon, but for me that's a 30-minute drive just to get to Napa from St. Helena. And so delivery is a great way to go. The service works in a really cool way too. The driver's kind of in the area, delivering to one person. They get your order on their phone and come right to your house, which means they're not driving all the way back and forth to the dispensary every time, which really makes it very efficient and green, which is kind of nice too. They're doing a lot fewer miles per delivery than a delivery service like a pizza place where they have to cook it and deliver each pizza to each order. Yeah.
So you guys are trying to partner up with certain wineries, or you have your own tasting rooms where you might in the Napa Sonoma region?
Well, for now, you can't partner with a winery. You can't actually deliver the cannabis even onto their property. We think that'll change over the next couple of years because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so what we're doing is we're working to get an ordinance passed in the county of Napa that will allow cultivation here. And then what we'll do is have a dispensary in the city of Napa so that our products can be displayed there and people can come and experience them. A big part of that is the education process, helping people understand the different products, what's the right thing for them. Unlike, other products that I can think of, including wine, cannabis ranges from, purely recreational to truly medical in its qualities. And so there's a lot of education with the consumer, helping them understand what's best for them.
Yeah, I noticed, I just went onto the website for Ease, and they were it seems like there's a lot of products there that are for, for the medical side of things as well, which, I mean, there's some, definitely there's some benefits there for certain types of people and certain types of issues for the medical side of things as well. It's just amazing how the recreational side is just taken off. So do you see any anticipate any sort of blowback from either, politics or just communities in general as far as, not being able to I don't know, maybe just not so much regulated, but I think the big deal that I've been hearing is, how do you tell if somebody's high while they're out there driving? I guess that's a big deal.
Right. Well, that's certainly a challenge, and technology will come to the rescue, I think, on that. So they'll be able to have tests just like they do for alcohol. It's more complicated testing people for cannabis, and also there's no real experience deciding what level of use it constitutes too much to drive, because you're allowed to have a drink or two, right, and still drive. So what's that level for cannabis? But that'll be figured out. The main thing is that we're finding that a lot of cities, the city councils in those cities, are just reluctant to take the risk because they don't understand it. But cities that have already taken the risk and opened dispensaries, opened up manufacturing, have found that it's just a big yawn. There's no big deal. They have liquor stores. They have, stores selling cigarettes. We all know how to ID and check to make sure that kids aren't using it. And there's no indication at all that increases any other negative effects like crime or anything like that. So I think what's going to happen is the regulations are going to be the stiffest initially, and then we'll see a slow easing as people see that it's just not a big deal.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, good luck to you on your venture. It sounds, you've had some obviously successes in the past, so this should be just right up your alley. I look forward to maybe meeting up with you one of these days. Are you based in Napa yourself?
Yeah, I'm based in I live and work in St. Helena.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah, I'd love to host you here sometime and drink some wine and drink some cannabis.
That'd be great. Well, I'll definitely do the first one. I'm not sure about the second one, but I'll watch you. How about that? Hey, Erik Sklar has been with us, and check out his website. It's fume.com, as I recall. Is that right?
FumeNapa.com.
FumeNapa.com, and then ease.com, which is EAZE. So check it out. Hey, Erik, thanks so much for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. All right, everybody, stick around.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. All right, everybody, stick around.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. All right.